Hello, my crafty friends. Well, today I have a simple yet very unique card making layout that I want to share with you. And this particular layout can be used with any pattern paper that you have on hand. Hi, it's Lynn Dunn from Stamptastic Designs. Thanks so much for joining me today. In this episode of Stamptastic TV, I will share 3 different ways that you can use this triangle layout in your card making. Now, the cards in this video feature the Flowers for Every Season designer series paper, but keep in mind you can use any pattern paper that you have on hand to create this layout. Now, I am always on the lookout for a fun and unique card making idea, so I'm really excited to share this new little layout with you. Okay, so first let's talk about how to create those triangular shapes for our card. So we're going to start with a 5 by 3 3/4 inch piece of pattern paper. So you can choose any pattern paper you want, and if you want, you can follow along with me. So once you have your pattern paper cut, you want to lay it in your paper trimmer diagonally from corner to corner. We're going to be making the cuts from this corner to this corner. So we'll make those cuts first. So you want to line them up in the groove of your paper trimmer. And once you have them lined up, you can go ahead and make the cut. Okay, now that we've made the cut, we want to actually keep this piece together. So keep the piece together, and then I want you to turn it so you can see this is my piece. So I want you to turn it because we're actually going to be cutting from this corner down to this corner. But you want to make sure that your pieces are lined up before you do that. So this may be the trickiest part, is just making sure that these pieces are lined up and that your corners are in that groove. Once you have everything lined up, then you can go ahead and make the cut. Okay, so this is what your triangular pieces should look like after you make those 2 cuts. So you can see they're all the same pattern, but I just took 2 pieces and just flipped them over. You can choose these 2 or you can choose these 2. And so this is how I want to adhere them to my card. So let me show you how to put the card together. Okay, to create the card, you're going to need a 5 1/4 by 4 inch piece of white cardstock, or whatever color cardstock matches the pattern paper that you're using. Next, you want to take all your pieces and you want to lay them on the white cardstock. So we're going to have just probably like an 1/8 inch gap in between each of these pieces, maybe a little bit more, because we want a little bit of white showing on each side of the triangular pieces. So just kind of line them up where you want them on your cardstock, and then you can go ahead and start adhering the pieces. So it doesn't matter where you start. I'm going to start on the bottom here. Now I'm using liquid glue because it gives me a little bit of play so that when I lay this on the cardstock, I can move it around and place it exactly where I want. Okay, then once you get the first piece adhered, then you just go around and adhere all the pieces using the liquid glue. And again, you can see that as I use the liquid glue, I'm able to move this triangular piece around a little bit to give myself about an 1/8 inch of white space showing in between. Okay, so there you go. Now you have a fun little triangular design that you can use with any pattern paper you have. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is take our fun little layout and we're going to adhere it to a card base. So I'm using one of the new in colors called Misty Moonlight. And Misty Moonlight coordinates with my designer series paper, the Flowers for Every Season. So we'll just adhere that to our card front. And now I'm going to create a couple different punch shapes to create a focal point on the card. So I am using the Everyday Label Punch, so it creates a little shape that looks like this. And so this is punched out of some Misty Moonlight cardstock. I am also going to be using the Label Me Fancy Punch, but I want to stamp a sentiment first. So I'm using one of the sentiments from the Forever Fern stamp set. So I just stamped my sentiment on a scrap piece of paper. And now I'm going to take my punch and just cut out this little sentiment, and we will create the focal point. So to create the focal point, I have my Everyday Label Punch here, and I'm going to actually show you how to make this little ribbon wrap, I guess. I guess you call it a ribbon wrap. But you always see this ribbon kind of bunched up behind some type of shape. So I'm going to show you how to do that. It's actually pretty easy. So it's easier than making a bow. How's that? Basically, I have like a 10-inch piece of ribbon here. So all I'm going to do is just kind of fold it back onto itself. So you see I folded this top piece here back onto itself, okay? And then I took this bottom piece and folded it up. And that's really all you have to do. You can secure this with, you know, a couple of glue dots. You can kind of move it around to make the loops bigger or smaller. But you're really just laying the ribbon on top of each other. And then we're going to take it and we're going to put it behind the label like that. So it just kind of gives it a nice little look. So I use some dimensionals to kind of hold that ribbon in place and to pop this label up on the card. Okay, now we're ready to add our little greeting or sentiment. So I'm using a couple little dimensionals to pop this up on the card as well. And then for the finishing touch, I'm just going to add some of these fun little enamel dots. Okay, and that's it. Pretty simple, right? Okay, so now that you know how to make the triangle layout for your card, I'm going to show you a couple other ways that you can use this layout. So this particular card that I just showed you features the triangular layout on a 5 1/4 by 4 inch piece of white cardstock. So I matted it out on white. Now this particular card is the same concept as this one. The only difference is I didn't mat this out on white cardstock. I actually used the exact same dimensions and then I just adhered it to a Misty Moonlight card base. So you'll notice that the grooves in between the triangular pieces are much larger on this second card than they are on this first card. Okay, and this third card idea really is just the exact same thing as this first one. So you can see I matted it out on the white cardstock. I just used, you know, a new color. It's called Just Jade. So I used a different color card base. But you'll also notice that I changed the orientation. So on this card, you have that landscape orientation. So you have landscape mode. And then with this card, I did it in portrait style instead of landscape. So again, it's the exact same design or concept for creating the triangle layout. It's just a different style. Okay, so there you go. Now you have 3 different ways that you can use this triangle layout in your card making. And if you enjoyed these card making ideas, feel free to download the printable tutorial. You can find the link in the description below this video. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know by liking it and sharing it with your friends. And leave me a comment below to let me know what you enjoyed most about the video and the cards shared here today. Have a fun and creative day, my friends. Take care.